Hi, it's Reason here.
And Vice, and I have some words to say.
Yay.
Hey, you calm yourself down over there.
Yes, ma'am.
And, as we're going to start this off, is that these are our own opinions, not yours, so back off.
In a nice little bow. Alright, let's get this episode started.
Hi, I'm Vice, and I'm that really bad internet connection.
Hi, I'm Reason, and I'm living in that really bad internet connection. Welcome to the AniVid Fanfiction Book Club! Hurrah!
Woo! And today, we are going to be talking about the Otaku Type.
It is an Ouran Host Club fanfiction, and it is written by SihoFujioka.
And, so basically it's, the summary is ShihoFujioka, Haruhi's cousin, is accepted into Ouran's senior academy by getting a scholarship. He meets up with Haruhi and joins the host club. While he's there, the host club begins to fall in love with him. Who will be the destined loved one for this lonely otaku?
So right off the bat, I'd like to point out that this is obviously going to be an OC story, like obviously. But the second thing is that when you read it, it reads very much like a play script. The way that the author wrote it is not in the traditional sense. You know what I mean? Did you see that, Vice? How basically they
it's mostly like a play or a script. The latest one that I've read was Harry Potter: The Cursed Child. It's put on like a play or a script. Like you could actually go and perform this.
Yeah, that's really what it came off more, is that it had a lot of like open, like the way that they did it. They had the speech in like a particular line, and then under that was the action. They basically read differently, and I know that there are some people that prefer writing that method. I know that it can be a bit easier, so not have to worry about the grammar or stuff like that. But I mean, it's
that just plus no details or anything like that. You don't really need a lot of details whenever you write it in that type of sense, because you basically just have more of your imagination whenever you. It gives people a lot more imagination.
It really does.
There was actually some detail. It's just like,
that's not to say there isn't detail. It's just not in the traditional sense of how it would have been. Again, it reads very much like a play, like you'd be filling in how the characters are moving more or less. Like there's definitely details that happen. It's just written more or less like what's it called? That's a screenplay. There we go. That's kind of what it seems like more to me.
Yeah, it was more like a screenplay and stuff like that. So, what else? Oh, I like his kitten. His kitten is cute.
His kitten was an interesting choice. I think that as for what the character of the cat was supposed to represent, I think it was an interesting choice that the author decided to go with. How it represented, how it's like he's not close to anyone. And he's like, oh yeah, cats are better. Because, you often find this kind of character that Shiho often has some kind of animal companion that they've had for a long time. And they usually meet them through some kind of tragic means. And it usually represents that it's like their one little shred of what things that are okay in the world. Because we find out Shiho's kind of, he's more than the otaku type. I mean, that does play a role in the character that he is. But he definitely is the lone wolf type of this kind of character. That's also what the author actually ends up saying, like in a few author's notes here and there, that's the type of character that he is. It's their main like OC kind of character.
He lonely otakus, they don't like to be around people. They like to read their mangas. They like to be alone, read their mangas, and just shut out everyone. He seems more like, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. Like, I'll even play the piano for you. And stuff like that. But it's just like, That's not really the lone. Yeah, and then he also brings up the fact that, oh yeah, I like to draw, read manga, and then watch anime and stuff like that. But it doesn't really show the lonely part of that, except like kind of like a lone wolf, like, you know. And then one thing that I noticed, like in the beginning, it kind of showed of how Haruhi came in, except all of the boys from the host club kind of just automatically wanted to get him instead of with hot.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to bring up. The thing I was trying to say is that he, when I meant that he is a character that is lonely, it means more or less that he doesn't like, he's aware of the fact that he is quote unquote alone in the world. Not so much that he's pawning and fawning for someone's attention. I guess that's probably where it mixed up. When most people say lonely, it usually has to do with more like the person wants affection, they want people to pay attention to them, as opposed to being a lone wolf, which is someone who actually thrives more or less on being alone. Usually the character ends up developing that they don't need to be alone, which we do see an arc throughout this story based on that. But the thing is, the character, I had a few grievances with the character, and I think part of it, I think that the author, I think I know what they were doing when it came to the speed that it went. Like, it like was a huge, quick rush to that everybody loved him like in 2 seconds. That's one of my big grievances.
The difference between how people loved Haruhi and that is that she basically developed kind of like breaking every single wall to help them. The only one that really like loved her right away was Takashi.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But like the moment this boy came into everyone's life, they're all just like, no, he will be mine, type thing. And it's just like, wow, that escalated quickly now, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. And I think part of it is that I think it goes back to a lot of the times that people make the misstep in fan fiction, in that they already the characters are already pre-developed previous people reading the stories. Like, people already know what these characters act like, who they are. The only person they don't really know is who Shiho is. And I think there was a misstep with many. I've seen this with other people too, that they take too much for granted that the reader already knows. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it makes sense why they would want to develop past that faster, because they probably wanted to just get the scenes done between the characters. But I think that I feel like I think what the story needed more was just more fleshing out, because there were some things that were done that were interesting choices. Like, I think that the scenes I think the thing that showed that the most promises of what the author had was the scene between or were the scenes where Shiho went over to Takashi's house. But the problem is like that even that felt kind of rushed in the beginning, because the fact is like, okay, now we're over here at this house all of a sudden. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that between
one thing that I wanted to point out is how because you remember in the anime that Haruhi played which one is Hikaru and which one is Karu game.
Mm-hmm.
He played the same game, and the thing about that one is that he got it like what he's only been there for like 3 days or something like that.
I don't know if it was that, but it shouldn't have read like that. If it wasn't meant that way, It wasn't clear, but it read like it was only a couple days.
Yeah, and he's already figured out both of the twins, which I like how in this one he actually mentions the voices and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And how Karu has more of a higher voice while Hikaru has more of a deeper voice, which what was it? The voice, it felt like what you said. It felt like it was only 3 days or something like that. He was only there for a couple of days, and he had already figured out the twins, even though he hasn't really been able to speak to the twins or anything like that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that seemed to be in the background. You know, like, it's like we have to take this stuff for granted and with a grain of salt as the character. Like, it's like passive development that we haven't seen yet, and it's like, but I mean, we kind of have to see it.
Yeah.
It again, and also mention the character. I mean, I know that a lot of people, especially young authors, draw to that kind of character that Shiho is. I personally have never been the kind of person that drives that like leans towards the kind of more darker, edgy kind of character, the one that has, like, you know, the dark past and the inability to connect with people. I've never been a big fan of even people that are like that. I think that I have my own whole mess on that I could just talk on and on, so we're not going to get on that. And I think that the way that the character was made and to develop was fine. It was fine. I think that we see a lot of promise that the author had, that they had a lot that they wanted to do. Again, they had, it's very similar to another story that we read already, that there was a lot that they wanted to do, but they probably didn't have all the that's the word, all the notions, probably all the inner workings in mind of how they wanted it. And I think that this goes back to what a lot of people, like any young author out there, that they don't believe in this, even though I completely 100% am guilty of this.
Okay, so
but it is a matter of planning. That's what I was getting at.
Reason. Okay, so then I'm going to ask the question right now. Would you say that he's a Mary Sue?
A Mary Sue? You know, the thought did come across my mind. It definitely did come across my mind a few times reading it, with the way that he was acting and getting away with as much as that he did.
Okay. And that's a bad thing to have in your stories. You can't have Mary Sues in your stories.
Well, in this case, it's a Gary Sue, because it's a male.
Yeah. To have more insight on that, Reason, what exactly is a Mary/Gary Sue?
They are basically, again, the very quick thing that you could immediately say is usually any young artist's first creation. They're usually perfectly imperfect in that they have a lot of flaws, yet people are able to look over them, and they usually mean that it usually helps them in some way. They usually have people fawning over them very quickly, as one thing that we see here. We also see that they have a tragic backstory, usually, as we see here as well. It's not to say that effectively Gary Sue is not a thing you want, but that doesn't mean they can't be fixed. Usually we do see that, especially if a person takes that same character and they rework them, a lot of things can really work out well. I think that the big thing is that you don't have to necessarily change anything, you just have to add more. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to create a character with a tragic past...
It makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me, but the thing is that let's see if we can drill it through any other artist's head, shall we?
What does that mean?
Because, I can go and get the drill.
No. We don't need the drill.
Oh, come on. You never let me use the drill.
That's because it literally makes a mess all over my white carpets.
Don't have white. I told you, get red ones. It can hide better.
I don't want red carpets. It clashes with my skin tone.
Whatever.
Now, yeah, so, I mean, the author might be really annoyed with us, unfortunately, but, sometimes we're just... Sometimes we're going to come across things that need work, and I don't know, I haven't read anything recent of this author. Again, this is one thing I also need to make a clear point about, is that the author even told us specifically that it's an old story from 2 years ago, and trust me, when you're an author, you can change completely in 2 years. I know I did. There's a good chance that the author might look at this and probably be like, well, I already did that. Like, what are you talking about? Again, I'm not necessarily digging at you specifically. It's not like you just wrote this story 2 seconds ago and is like, this is my greatest piece ever. And it's like, well, no, you need work. But this is probably for anyone else who happens to be reading on and trying to figure out what their character is. And I know that I didn't recently, not until recently, I didn't know what a Gary Sue was until I was pretty deep into writing and creating things. And then I realized that I had a character that was kind of a Gary Sue, but in the sense that he was OP. It's usually a lot of Gary Sues are overpowered, which is another aspect that we see, is that he does have a bit of an power to him, mostly when it was dealing with people where he, like, by just yelling, everyone bows to his command and stuff like that. Like, some people are just not going to have that innate respect immediately unless that person comes off with it, and usually someone who's in their teens is not going to have that. Again, it's different if they're like a sergeant in the army or something like that, then they'll probably be more likely to have that kind of commandingness. But again, it goes back to having to add.
You have to work for that power. I work for that power.
It's scary. I know that at one point...
You also have to manipulate people. Come on, get it through your heads. Manipulate. It's easy.
I do not condone this behavior. Just let me put in that out there right now. I do not condone such actions.
But you can't control me, so hi.
Yes, hi. Hi, hello, everyone. Another point I want to make home. This is they have their little Yandere boyfriend show up, which was an interesting set of events. I think that it makes perfect sense to me. Like objectively speaking, it makes sense why the person is unable to trust anyone. Like, they don't trust anyone because, as we see in the story, that this person, Shiho, wasn't very friends with many people, always was more of a lone kind of character. Then they met the person that would become their unfortunate Yandere person, because everyone loves a good Yandere. And they end up revealing a secret, that being their bisexuality, and then the friend, quote unquote friend, ends up exposing it online. It kind of ruins reputation, and then they kind of sign off from being friends with anyone. And I get why people would be nervous about that, and why they would be, especially apprehensive going to a new school if the bullying was so bad that you had to exchange schools, that you don't want to really be close to anyone. But for me, it always goes back to, I've met a few people in my past, in my life, that have had that kind of same complex of, I was betrayed once, so I'm just going to be this certain way. And it's always kind of really bothered me. I know that it's really mean for me to say that, but that's one of my, irks with people, that some people end up having. Like, they have a chip on their shoulder constantly and permanently. And if you have a character like that, maybe you could try to figure out a way to work around it. Again, luckily this author does end up quickly letting go of that chip on their shoulder, which, I guess is a good thing, in that the character doesn't remain that same blob of, don't touch me, I'm so broken kind of thing. But we did see it maybe happen a little too fast, so it's a give and a take kind of thing. I'd very much be interested in seeing their latest work, just to see how much they've taken and see how much they've changed. Obviously, something to consider, food for thought, that kind of thing.
Again, something that we do is we find a story, we get permission from the story, we read the story, we talk about the story, and then on our own, sometimes we do look at other stories, sometimes we don't. Personally, I don't.
Again, for me, it's more just to see, okay, this is how many years ago this was written. I'd like to see how they've become now. It's just a matter of, again, this might not be necessarily an objective, not objective, but it might not be the most relevant and perfect review for this story in particular, but it could easily be things for someone who else is also young and writing, also trying to develop their own story and characters. That's one of the things that we do here, is that we're not looking... we are looking to give, advice to the authors also, but most importantly, it's about reaching out and giving to other people the kind of things that we learned and have seen, because while we may not be experts, we're anti-experts in that we've probably made our own fair share of mistakes, and we can talk about it and look back and be like, hey, here's what we know, learn from our mistakes and learn from what we catch from other people, kind of thing.
Yeah. And another thing, though, it's better than the one story we always talk about.
That is true. Again, it's still better. Again, at least we have a clear line of events, and things make sense. Again, we know that that B happened after A and C happened after B. The other one, Z, was magically before F. Just pointing that out there. It was very weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to, again, I'm going to keep harking on this probably on every single little thing that I see, is that a matter of planning, an outline. I know that every young author, and even like successful big authors, like they hate that word, outline. And to be fair, they should. It fucking sucks. Outlining sucks.
It does.
But it changes really things. Important. When you have an outline in front of you, you know exactly what to do, the direction you're going to take, and just basically have an easier time doing it. So, as it goes, but yeah, no, so what happened is that, I was going back to the Yandere boyfriend, which is actually towards the end of the story, they show up and they start fucking shit up, and they're like totally insane. They like really want to like destroy Shiho's happiness, and it's again, when you build a Yandere character, they fall into a box of a few kind of aspects that, especially when we meet this character, because of the fact that we already had a preconceived notion that they were an asshole. So there was no need for us to get the notion that they were a nice person. So the author was able to forego that, and we immediately got to see their darker self, thus being the one that was holding the bat and the kitchen knife that was going to literally start killing people at the... but the thing is that what's confusing to me was that when Shiho sees them in the street, and then the next time they see them, they're like in the host club all of a sudden. And maybe I was a misread on my part, but it just seemed like that kind of got foggy a bit. And then everybody was suddenly in danger of being killed. And the next thing we know is that Shiho ends up getting stabbed, which, you know, I probably saw coming because of the fact it would make no sense for anyone else really to be stabbed. I mean, it would just be quite a shocker if anyone else, because again, that... they don't necessarily have...
If it was a shocker that anyone else would have been stabbed, that would have been a good way to go with.
I don't think so, though. I don't think it would have been the good way to go, because the fact it's like, there wasn't... again, the only person that could have really been justified in getting stabbed first would have been Takashi, but the thing is, the Yandere doesn't know that... and again, the person has a name, I just can't remember for the life of me. They didn't know that they were already getting close to Takashi, or Tamashi, or Tamashi, that's what it is. Why am I saying Takashi? They didn't know that.
Because that's what Honey says.
So we see that.
Takashi.
So that's what we see. Again, if there was more setup, I can see why others would have been stabbed, but it wouldn't have made. Again, I think that where they were, the direction that they went and they had already taken, any other person would have been an ill-fitting moment. Then of course they do survive. I forget where they get stabbed. It's somewhere in the torso region, like lower torso. They're in the hospital. They've been arrested. They're out of the picture.
Nothing says "notice me, senpai" like being stabbed in the gut.
It's so true, though. I mean, that's not even like a dig against you. It just seems to be a thing. Like if someone's gonna be able to get stabbed, they're gonna get stabbed in the torso. And I think it's probably more or less the safer quote unquote place to get stabbed. I mean, short of like the thigh. But like if you get stabbed in the chest, your lung is out. Get stabbed in the arm, it's not that dramatic. Get stabbed in the head, you got stabbed in the head. So
get stabbed in the foot, well, you're not going to be able to run away from me.
Get stabbed. That's very Yandere of you to say. Please don't ever say that again.
Notice me, senpai.
Oh, no.
Let's be honest. I'm senpai.
So, the completely terrifying moment aside, this is where things got the most convoluted. It was the different endings, which kind of read like a dating simulator, which... two of them made sense, because we do see that, I completely forgot to mention that there was that scene. Do you remember the cultural, or like not the cultural fair, the fair basically, where the really stoic guy, the guy that controls everything, he gets like abandoned by his friends. Remember that scene in the anime? Yeah, we see that happen again, but this time it's Shiho in Haruhi's place. It's very similar to what happens, just a different side. We see the other side of him. But again, the only two people would have been him and Tamashi, which happened to be the first two that the author wrote. And it was interesting. I mean, it made sense as to why they did it this way, but I don't think that they had enough development behind the other characters, especially not like Hani Nazuka. That one came out of kind of left field for me. But, I mean, it made sense why they had to put all of them in. You know, you put in most of them, you got to put the others kind of thing. I know there were some special chapters afterwards where we got to meet their parents, and there was a scene there where we end up, we see that he was kind of abandoned. His parents are always busy. They live. One was, I forget, they work together and under the same company, but they're always overseas, which is why he always seems to have money because they're always sending it to him, but he's living alone. And as we see in Japan, it's actually very common for young children to be left alone to watch the house because of the fact that it's just, different culture. But again, it just leads more to
different culture, plus they are more mature.
That is true. That's 100% true.
Like, you'll see probably a middle school child going on the subway by themselves to go to school and everything like that, while in America, you
have adults that still don't know how to take a subway.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's more mature over there, and it is very common. You see it in a whole bunch of different stuff.
But, yeah, that's basically kind of where it goes off and ends. Again, the story itself is... it reads like a very young author story, at the very least. I'll say that it reads like a young author story. And I'm sure that it is. I mean, even if it's 2 years older than this and they haven't been writing for a long time, I mean, I think that also the kind of character that they chose does show a level of their age kind of thing. It's not a ding against them unless they didn't break out of that mold and they didn't want to expand and look back and see, maybe I should change this. As you grow older and you read more, you are able to see what works and what doesn't. I think that it's a very common pitfall that a lot of young authors seem to go for, and it's that lone wolf kind of character. I don't know what it is. Personally, I've never written the kind. Again, I go back. I've never been a big fan of those kind of people anyways. But a lot of people, when they're young, they seem to just stick to that kind of character. I don't know what it is. Maybe you can give me some insight, Vice?
I actually have one character who started out as a loner and stuff like that. And then goes into actually trusting actually going into a quote unquote pack and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun character to work with if you know how to do it well. If you don't really know how to do it well, then it's like your experience. You don't really know how to do them. You don't really like them in the first place. But if you actually have a lone
like, I've had a lone wolf character. Like, I think that a lone wolf character works fine if they're a secondary character. I don't think you can have a protagonist be the lone wolf because they kind of come... Again, it works for short stories or something like that usually, like one-shot kind of things. I guess it makes sense in that sense, but if you want to try to develop something long and very, like, you want to get close to these, there's, like, very little relatability, especially when they have all their walls up. It becomes hard. I think that a secondary character, lone wolf, is fine. But if you want to make your protag that, you might need to consider having to develop them farther into, sure, have them be the lone wolf, but you need to really go back really far and explain what led them to this point. Make them human.
A lone wolf character is more of an antagonist.
Yeah, easily. Easily, a lone wolf character plays perfectly fine antagonistically. Because, again, you don't necessarily have to root for them, but the story doesn't necessarily follow beside them. Again, you can have a lone wolf work pretty well as a antagonist. Usually we do see that antagonistic lone wolf characters do end up becoming almost like part of the team. I've seen this a few times. I've written it once or twice, or outlined it more, because I don't write everything I outline, but I outline almost everything I think about. But different story, different thing. So
actually, in one of our stories we are working together on, we do have a lone wolf character that is an antagonist at first, but then becomes... Yes, he does. Yes, he's very much... yes, he pulls, as we love to call it, the Crowley. Which, if you watch Supernatural, you know exactly what that is.
You know exactly what that is, and we won't tell you what it is. You have to go watch Supernatural. All 11 seasons. Go submit your soul to it.
Wait, what are you talking about? There's 12.
Fuck me and that... Anyways, I guess that's really everything I have to say about it. I know I came off kind of harsh, but I mean, again, not every story has to be about sunshines and rainbows with me.
Again, it's to where we're trying to help you.
Yeah, this was not meant to be, let me shit on you. This was definitely meant for me to help you.
Yeah, and again, we haven't seen any other things from them or anything like that, which I'm pretty sure Reason will go and look up something else from them, see how they changed. Maybe they even wrote in a regular type of writing style.
Yeah, we will definitely have to. Well, I'll have to definitely see that. Yes. So yeah, to wrap it up, hopefully we didn't rip you. Well, hopefully I didn't rip you too hard. Again, I'm just doing it out of the kindness because I care. I take a lot of pride in my ability to write and what I know. And this is part of it is me wanting to help other people. I know that Vice will be thinking, oh my god, stop apologizing. Just let them suffer. And I'm just like, no, I have to put this out to make them...
Never apologize, Reason. Come on. You know this.
See, she gets it.
I thought I drilled that in your head. Do I need to go get the drill again?
I still have 4 holes from the last time. I don't think I need a 5th one.
Then learn your goddamn lesson.
So yeah, let's move on to the next part of the episode.
And that was that part of the episode. Now to the next one.
Which is where we are going to be discussing another story called...
Following His Footsteps, Inuyasha Fanfiction by Otaku 101.
When Sesshomaru's father dies in a fire to save his half-brother Inuyasha and mother, Sesshomaru hates his father and the human he took in as a mate. But can Sesshomaru ever kill the young child with pure white hair and the same bright golden eyes like him? Follow the adventures of Inuyasha, the untold past of the 2 brothers and their relationship, the sons of the great dog demon of the Western lands. I hope you enjoy this story. It actually has mature content, and let's see what the tags have to say. Anime, fan, fiction, follow, footsteps, Inutashio. I've never heard of that tag before. Inuyasha, Izayaoi, or Yao, yeah, that's how you spell yaoi, right? Yeah. Love, Sesshomaru, Western, yaoi anime. Alright, so the mature content is not going to be based towards violence, it's going to be yaoi.
There might be some violence in there.
Yes, I mean, if you know Sesshomaru, it's not hard to imagine that violence is going to follow. That man is well, he's not even a man, he's a full demon, and he's, yeah, he's scary.
The only one he's nice to is Rin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could actually say that he actually does care for his brother because the fact, if you see in the anime, he has had several points to just, rip his face off, yet he doesn't. Something always seems to hold him back, and he always talks about, oh, it's the sword, or it's this, or it's that. So like, no, bro, it's your brother, and you can't do it.
That's your baby brother.
So Sesshomaru, he's,
Even though, Reason, you have a baby brother that you would,
Hey, we don't talk about my life. We don't talk about my life in this podcast.
I'm pretty sure we talk about mine.
We don't talk about... I am not Sesshomaru. That's all I have to say. As much as I kind of wish, because, white hair, awesome stuff.
It's not even the demon part, because, well, you have one right next to you.
Yes, I do. So, yeah, it seems that there's going to be yaoi. So, I didn't even notice that. It's 72 parts.
Oh, whoops. Give.
She's going to look for author's notes, everyone. What if you just see a wall of just A-N?
And I'd kill someone. 1, 2. I'm not all too sure. I've only 3, 4, 5, maybe.
Oh boy! All right, this is gonna be a longins.
This is gonna be a long one. I wonder how long the
chapters are. Who knows?
Well,
Or should be 35 friggin' pages.
They're pretty long.
They look like they're gonna be, not the most. They're not the longest, but they certainly aren't 2-page chapters where they get washed over.
So this is gonna take a while.
I'm sure I can finish it in time,
If anything, this one might go with the move and stuff like that. So it might take a couple weeks for us to actually finish this one.
We shall see. Who knows? We can't be sure because we have not read through it, because that is not what we do in this channel. Where did that accent come from?
I don't know. But, stop that.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so this one might take a while, so it might take us about
3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most.
3-4 weeks or anything like that. And it might actually help me because I'm moving.
Yes.
Stop that.
What? I can't be happy for you.
But yes, I'm moving. So this one actually might be perfect for that. Might be perfect for that, because in a couple...
In some time.
I'll be moving, so you might not hear from us for a while.
Who knows? This is why we did what we did, to hopefully have things in the chamber ready to go, because as you guys can probably tell, there was a different recording seemed to be happening before this part.
Yeah.
Because we thought ahead. It's a little bit weird.
Like all YouTubers do.
Yes.
But yeah, so that was that episode.
Yeah, well, I guess suppose catch you at the next one, guys.
We'll catch you at the next one, which might be a while.
Who knows? Toodles!
Stop that.